Hey, Cal here. As you may have noticed, we didn't publish the Playing with Power podcast onto YouTube for a while. Well, we're working on fixing that. On our normal off weeks, we'll be uploading the missing 7 episodes here for you to watch. On this episode, we're joined by Kahlua to discuss the very spiny topic of gatekeeping in communities, specifically centered around our very favorite, that of competitive Commander. I hope you get something useful out of this episode.
Welcome to the Playing with Power podcast, the podcast where we talk about all things cedh, EDH, and Magic the Gathering. I am your host, Alex.
And I'll be your co-host, Ashani, Jamaican dude. And we have a guest here tonight, Kahlua. Let's hope I did that correctly. What's up, bro?
Hey, thanks for having me.
Awesome. Sweet. Thanks for joining us. Before we go any further, I wanted to talk quickly about our sponsor, TC's Rockets. TC's Rockets has one of the greatest and largest selections of toys, comics, and games in San Diego. With thousands of MTG cards being added to their online store every morning, you never know what deals you'll find at TC's Rockets. You can also keep up with games by tuning in to their Twitch streams every Tuesday and Friday for live paper magic. Fuel up and check out TC's Rockets today. After that, take those cards for a spin during our webcam leagues, tournaments, and Patreon days over on our Patreon. You get all kinds of benefits for your direct support. Finally, our merchandise store is back. We didn't like the quality of our last store, so we did some research and found a great new provider. The merchandise is much better in our opinion, and we are adding new designs all the time. Check out the podcast description for links to everything mentioned today.
And our Patreon shout out will be Lab. Lab, you're the best.
Lamb is the best for Patreon. Shout out today. Bum 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 bum.
Do do do.
Do do do. So today we're going to talk about gatekeeping. Should gatekeeping be in our community? And what is gatekeeping?
Gatekeeping. What is gatekeeping? I believe gatekeeping is when where we have a set of rules that govern what we think is playable and what is not. And we kind of govern ourselves in that square. And do we want someone to come and we kind of keep people in our garden that we have protected. This is a terrible explanation, but I'm going with it. And when we have people who come into our community, we try to tell them that these are the things that we expect them to do. And that is a form of gatekeeping. And when there's players who do not conform to that norm that we have produced, we could belittle them or do whatever negative things we do as a community. And that is something. Should we have more of it or should we have less of it as a community to try to encourage new players to come into? And that is the topic we're here to talk about tonight. Should gatekeeping be in our community? Should it be less or should it be more?
So Kahlua, as our guest and honored guest,
Yes.
What do you think about this?
I am here to tell you that your deck is bad and you should feel bad for playing it. That's what I'm here for.
Oh, okay. Fair. So something that I pull from this.
I'm joking. I'm totally joking.
No, absolutely. Is people. There's the different color combinations. If you were to play a sans green deck, right? So blue, white, black, red, and you were to ask, what is the best deck in this color scheme? A lot of people in the CDH community might say Blue Farm. If this was 2017, they might say Brea.
Opus Thief,
right? And so these are, but the big thing here is what's the best set of commanders, the best, card selection that you get. And I think when I think of gatekeeping, I think it's people coming in to the format and instead of playing, Blue Farm, where we have Timna Crom, instead they play a Shy Silas, right? It's same colors, right? And it could do something powerful. However, there's no card advantage in the command zone. You're doing a much different game plan, and it's the idea that, if you're playing a Shy Silas over Timnacrom, you are not playing CEDH. And I think that's a huge issue, because what ends up happening is that people get discouraged from brewing decks that might be better, but because they're told that, their initial idea was bad, they stray away from thinking outside of the box.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so the thing is, do we want more, creativity room, or should we have more people saying, no, that idea is bad, and you shouldn't even consider brewing that idea because there's something that is already here, is figured out, is done, and we don't need to explore other areas of that color pie.
What do you think, Kahlua?
I think if you're exploring something like that, you would really have to justify it by saying what does it do better than a current established deck? Mm-hmm. Like what niche is it filling that there isn't one currently for? Like if Ishai, there's like Ishai Jessica, Ishai Clark. Oh, that's one of my lists. Don't play it, it's bad. Gatekeeping.
Gatekeeping.
But yeah, I think if you're doing something that's like unique and hasn't been explored yet, it needs to really do its own thing. That, because it's hard to justify. Like, you've got Timur Krom, that's just like insane card draw. Like Ishai, you're playing stacks. Like, what does it do better than something that's already out there?
Yeah, and to back it up, I think that when you can replace card draw for a win con, so like specifically talking about a Shy Jessica, why could a Shy Jessica be argued to be better than Timna Cromwell? A Shy Jessica can literally knock people out the turn after you played a Shy. Like, you cast a Shy turn 1, and then you cast Jessica turn 2, and if people have played 6 spells, a Shy can be lethal. That's really good. And you just run stacks out the yin yang, and you might be able to do stuff. You could also do it like a turbo version where you were just playing Jeskai good stuff. But like, I think the main thing here is when people refuse to look outside of what is established, and for the sake of saying it's bad. Like, and I think this, for me personally, as a brewer, I really strive to like explore every option that I can and give it a try. A good example of this is Urtai's Meddling. I really like Urtai's Meddling, specifically the delay effect that it has. I love that. Right, I love that it exiles stuff and it can whatever. Is it actually good? Like, not really, but it is
2 blue, right? Yeah.
It's a blue and an X. Blue and X.
Okay.
Yeah. But like, at the same time, for my budget decks, I run it in all my budget decks. It's a great counterspell for budget. But like, I gave it a fair shot because I thought it would do something, and it wasn't that great. Like, it was just like an okay counterspell. But there's like I remember like being in a brewing session and mentioning Urtai's Meddling, and everyone was like, "No, it's garbage." Like, it was,
some arcane denial. You want to run arcane denial?
Yeah. And I was like, it's not that bad. But if you're looking, when you have access to 4 colors or 5 colors even, every card slot is super tight. Like, you're competing, right? It's competing for cards that are just so efficient. And I think that's really, really tough to compete with.
Like, the only really like niche that card fills is like if you're hitting a card that can't be countered, where it can still suspend it. But yeah, with like constantly releasing all the new staples, that it just gets pushed out of the format.
I mean, that's so true. Like right now, I have to admit that Dark Confidant is no longer playable in CDH, and that's just a sad world to live in.
Yeah, super sad world to live in.
Just because of all the card draw that we have that's going on right now. Like Archivist of Ogma just has the printing of that card just has made Confidant just absolutely not playable anymore. And I have now removed Bob from almost all my lists, sadly. But yeah, that's the thing. Like, do we want more creative juices, or is that healthy? Is that a healthy thing to have? What do you guys think?
Absolutely, right? Like, okay, a good example of like a thought experiment was there's a list I have. It's called CST Marinade, and it is a Timna Thrasios list, right? So good commanders, and Timna Thrasios, and in this list I run like 7 or 8 pre-game effects, and so I'm on ley lines. I'm on ley line of the void, ley line of anticipation, ley line of sanctity. No, ley line of singularity. That one's hot. Chancellor of the Tangle, Sphinx of Foresight, Chancellor of the Annex, and Serum Powder. And the idea was to have like a great turn one. Like I want to start off very strong, and like the deck is it's like other than those like weird cards, like it's just a Timna Thrasios deck. And what I find more often than not is like I solve a problem that I don't really need to solve. Like Leyline of the Void, it solves a problem that I don't really care about that much. But it's people have to get rid of it to do their things. A card that I didn't realize was going to be as good as it was Leyline of Singularity, which is a blue enchantment that makes all non-land permanents legendary. It's my anti-Dockside tech.
Yeah, makes them sack all their treasures.
Yeah, all your treasures. Guess what? They're just one treasure. So it's just like it became really cool. Like I thought that was like a sick thing. However, you know, it was just okay, but I wanted to try it because I wanted to see like how good these cards were, and I began like really experimenting with some other like fringe cards like Failure Comply, which is a blue-white instant that allows you to return a spell back to its owner's hand, and then the Comply is silence. Not silence. It's your opponents can't cast a card name that you name. And so with that spell, you can like return someone's commander, and then you can name that commander so they can't cast it again, like for the next turn. So it really can slow down someone who's commander centric. But is it good? I don't know.
I think as long as you can be like objective in your card choices and not be like, oh, this is the best thing. Why isn't anyone playing this? Like, you play it, you know what works and what doesn't. Like, if you can be objective, and so like I play a lot of Shorokai, and I think it's a lot of fun, but like I'm objective enough where I can tell you it's not like in the top 2 tiers of the best decks in the format. So like as long as you can like kind of like feel out like what are good card choices and what are bad card choices, I think that really helps.
Speaking of tier lists, so I was on Twitter the other day, right? Twitter is a place that exists.
I've heard of it.
And there was a tier list that was made by a 60 card grinder. We'll say it like that. And it was like an objectively, an objective tier list that looks at all the CDH decks, and it had like 4 lists at the top, and it was just like Timna Thrasios, Timna Crom, Silas Roger, and I think that was it. As like the top decks, and then the rest of the decks were like pretty much unplayable. It was a joke. It was 100% of a joke. But I think a lot of people felt like it was a serious.
So yeah, I also saw the same tweet, and I was thinking like the community itself got so like someone touched them in their no-no square. Like they were so up in arms about it, about that their commander was not considered playable, and it was meant to be a meme. Like if a lot of you guys follow Twitter, with Drake Sasser and Brian Cook and believe the guy who was Viverous Alex. I could be wrong. I'm so sorry if I'm slaughtering your names, but they've been having this like stigma where people are like, oh, you're coming into our community with all these aggressive takes about what we have been doing is wrong, and our community has not been accepted that. And then he made the post of the tier list as a meme, and a lot of people got really up in arms about it. I believe even the Asian community got brought into it too. It was awesome to see just the unity that we have come across, that we have came together as a unit to say that you are very wrong in saying this, Alex. And that part I really enjoyed. But
yeah, I I think that there's like, when it comes to newer players to the format, specifically, and I think this is like true among any format. Like if I were to start playing Standard or Legacy, right, I would look to like try and break the format, even though the format has like its people that have been in the format for a long time and understand like the nuances of it.
Right.
Right. So we have a group of individuals that are coming into the format who I feel are amazing players.
Yes.
And like shout out to Drake. Drake's one of my favorites. And the big thing here is like they are simply looking to play, like when we think of CEDH, like competitive EDH, and they're really taking that to heart with the okay, what is the strongest, and immediately shift to what does everyone else say is the strongest deck, and they Blue Farm shoots to the first of everyone's list, so you see them playing a lot of turbo. So when I think of the tier listing that they made, it was a joke. It was and everyone did get like very like, and even I tweeted something about it, right? And the biggest thing that I want to pull away is like, that being said, their tier list gets shut down by like a Thalia. And so like, how serious can you take it? You really have to like take a step back and think, okay, are they really trying to, like, for example, the topic gatekeep, are they trying to gatekeep, or are they just trying to be funny? And a lot of people thought they were gatekeeping. I don't know. To me, it was just an interesting thing.
But at the same time, did our community, in the rebuttal of it, did they gatekeep by saying what they're saying is incorrect, right? So it's like it's definitely, it depends on how you really look at it, because I believe that gatekeeping should be in our community to a point. Like, the only way we're going to grow as a community, we have to accept new players, and new players come with new ideas, and they want to play what they want to play. And you need to be accepting of that. I don't think if they come with a brew, you don't need to say, oh, this is absolute garbage. I always like to say that when Timmy and I first met, Harry was playing. What were you doing? Grow?
No, I was, when we first met, I was trying to make the Jund Planeswalker.
Yeah, Lord Windgrace. Yes.
Yeah.
You were trying to make Lord Windgrace work. And I remembered when we were like, this list is just trash, bro. Like, what are you doing? Like, we can do something better. And I was like, you know what? This has legs. Because I think Lord Windgrace is playable. I thought so because I just love land strategy. And I thought we sit down, I was like, Timmy, get off your high horse and come help me brew this. And we sat down and we brewed his higher. And Harry was like, you know what? I'm so excited. This is the best I've done with it, and I was happy. And I think it carried to your F&M. I don't know what happened to it after that, but that was the first meeting that we had with you. And I was like, Timmy was like, hey, don't play this here at Nexus. Like, don't play this here, but hey, play wherever you want, but don't play this here. And I'm like, hey, no, bro. It might have legs. It had blood moon. It had all of these things in it. Yeah, but, like, I think that was the thing of gatekeeping. Like, I believe we should help. Like, if someone has a card idea and they have a reason to defend that card idea, I think that should be good enough. I don't think if someone asks you, hey, why are you playing that card? And you just have a reason of, oh, I just played it because of whatever reason, or I have a full of it, that's not really a good enough reason for a discussion. And I don't think someone questioning your card choice does not mean like they're questioning your morals or your whole being. Like, a lot of people, in discourse, I don't know if you guys see this, but like, if I'm a big, I love cedh. I love and when I said like, oh hey, you should put cedh in this deck, and someone was like, dude, what is wrong with you? I'm like, listen, you don't understand the power of cedh, and I'll get belittled for it, but then until someone tries it, they realize how bad or not bad is a great card. It is. And I think that's what we need to do. You need to value your card choice, and when you realize your card choice is bad, let it go. Don't defend it all the way to the grave.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing with deck building. If you brew a deck, you build a deck. Does the deck have legs? Maybe. And then play it in a couple games. If you're a good deck builder, you should see the pros and the weaknesses and the strengths of it. And you should move on and not try to force a deck. And I think that's where good gatekeeping comes in. When we can say, this deck is not viable, and we can move on from it.
Yeah, there's like I would say there's a huge thing, and I do want to reflect on that story, like playing Lord Windgrace, and like I suffered from what I think a lot of people suffer when they come into the format. It's like you start playing with all these powerful cards, and you're like, oh my god, my deck is so much better because I'm playing these really efficient cards now. I still want to do the strategy I was doing before. And it's easier for me to do this strategy. I now can actually do the strategy on turn 4 instead of turn 9 because I have Mana Crypt and Dark Ritual, and I can cast Ad Nauseam turn 2. That's awesome. And like for me, that was like a huge thing. I was like, oh man, realizing that my deck is better because I have better cards, and now I have like these awesome brewers. I had you and Timmy T. Shout out to Timmy T 1000, and go check them out on budgetbrews.cc. Is it budget? No, it's not. It's
budgetbrews.club. Yeah.
Budget. Yeah, there you go. Shout out to Timmy. But like, you know, he's like, Alex, you know, this is a high powered deck. Like, no matter what you do to this, like, this is going to be a high powered deck. And I was like, no, it's so good. And then I played it, and I didn't have the words for it then, but I do now. And that was the deck was very parasitic, right? Yep. It needed other people to try and win and get stopped so that I can try to win. And I think that's a really good way to look at decks. Is your deck parasitic, and does it have to be parasitic in order for it to win? Or can you, and parasitic is just, are you depending on other people to interact with your opponents to stop their win so that you can go for your win?
Which is kind of a valid tournament strategy these days.
Yeah, it could be very strong. Shoot, that's, gosh. So yeah. Speaking of parasitic decks, we have a deck we're going to talk about today.
We're talking about Yeva? What?
Oh, no.
Oh,
Shots fired. Hey, listen, that's a DDB list. You got to be careful.
I know they won Chaos tournament.
Yeah, they did. They did win Chaos tournament, right? So the deck we're going to talk about today is, of course, Kinnan Big Flips. So Ashani and I have been working on this list. Big Flips is a non-interactive deck. We run no counter spells in it, and it's really a Simic stacks list. And it's just been doing way more than I ever thought I could ever do. Shawnee, tell me a little bit about your experience with Big Flips.
Kahlua. I've played this deck against Kahlua, and Kahlua has changed his list to go to his Shurikai board wipes because
the thing of nightmares.
He hates creatures. That is the kind of chaos we're causing with Big Flips. We are looking to just jam a early sword effect or lowstone golem or something like that, and we're just gonna sit behind it, and then whatever interaction happens, we just pass because we do not have interaction in our decks. And yes, we're a Submit deck, and yes, I understand we're playing blue, but not because you're playing blue means you have to play counter spells. We're playing greatest hits like Void Widower, Jenga Taxes,
the new Jenga Taxes.
The new Jenga Taxes, which is a pain to play against. Lowstone Golem, and what else do we have higher? What other?
Oh, man. There's so many. Coma. We have Wandering Archaic. We have Luan Cephalid Empress. There's just like a lot. There's a lot of like big dumb creatures. Terrastodon is like just the stupidest thing. So like the big thing with Big Flips, it's really easy to navigate because it's simple. It's turn 1, land, mana dork, or it's more like land, Soul Ring, Felwar Stone, mana dork. That's like a really common thing to see. And then turn 2, it's land, cast Kitten, and then you have activation mana ready at your disposal. And that activation, because the deck is on like 38 or 39 creatures, you're going to hit a creature that does something impactful. And that is your interaction. And so I've seen many games where it's like, that turn one land, Soul Ring, Felwar Stone, Mana Dork, turn 2 land, Kinnan, and then I've just cast Trinisphere, Manglehorn, like instead of activating Kinnan, and everyone just kind of like, oh, why are we playing this game anymore? Like, why does this happen?
You start to hear the moans and the groans all over.
Yeah. It's definitely a Simic stacks list. That's just, it's so fast. But it does that though, right? It's like, it's one of those things that like, if you look at the deck on paper, it looks weird. It's like, you're playing so many cards. You're not playing any of the cards that you see in normal Kinnan lists. And if you were like an outside person who hasn't played the list, you could easily think this is just bad. Like,
oh, that's a pile of cardboard. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
It's just like, oh, you're just playing a bunch of 8-drops, dude. Like, how are you going to cast this 8-drop? Like, what are you possibly think? How do you think CEDH games go? Like, you're not interacting with the board. You're not, like, looking at the deck on paper. Kahlua, have you seen this list?
Yes, I think I have.
Give the listeners your review of looking at this on paper as a 100-card singleton. Give us your review of Big Flips.
It's the thing. It haunts me. I need Grafdigger's Cage. I need Containment Priest. Maybe a Pithing Needle. It must be stopped at all costs. No, but I think the commander being Kinnan, it kind of, at like first glance, it sort of gets a pass because Kinnan is already in the field of CEDH commander kind of ish. But then when you start to break down the deck, there's I don't have it in front of me, but looking at it in the past, I think I did a little bit with Lurking Predators with Higher, and we kind of talked about maybe
Oh
like the
yeah,
beginning of the list a little bit.
we did. It
Um,
was actually right around that time that I made this list. Like I started like brewing this, and then Ashani played it. And he was like, "All right, we need to do some things," and then it just got out of control from there.
yeah, playing against it, it's so hard to stop because it's like if I don't have one of those like Adranith or something turn one to stop Kinnan from coming out, or like just the mana that you produce, and then you're just like flipping creatures and like I don't. It's I think it really attacks something that not a lot of decks kind of really play in that way that the Big Flips deck does. Like maybe like Winota is flipping creatures, but it's a little different. But
Winota is actually that's a really good deck to compare to Big Flips because of the how it attacks. It's like, oh, I just need to get Winota out, and then I can do stuff. And it's similar with Kinnan. Like we just need to get Kinnan out, and as long as we have mana, we're good to go. And I've seen a lot of matches against Winota where it's kind of a race because, unfortunately, Winota can power out creatures a bit faster because we only have one activation versus 3 triggers that Winota can hit every time. The only time that changes is if we get like a mana thing like a Nyx Bloom Ancient, or we get a Seedborn Muse.
so do you feel without having like an interaction spell suite, does the deck have bad matchups, or is it pretty much just do your thing and not really care about what everyone else is doing?
Yeah. If we don't have a meaningful stacks piece turn 2, then the deck can kind of fall to Adnaz decks, or like just these like turbo lists. But it is very good with other stacks decks. And I think like mid range is kind of the world that I think it really shines, because if we have 3 turns, it's not a good thing for the rest of the table.
Yeah, this deck is like as true parasitic as you can get. Like you literally depend on others to stop game winning spells while you advance your board state. And while you're advancing your board state, you're also slowing down the board so you can keep doing what you're doing even better. And that is like the true definition of a parasitic deck.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know. I just the experience that you have, Kahlua, I think that's just like what you see when you play against like really hard stacks decks. And I don't think playing stacks is very fun unless it's specifically Big Flips, because Jesus. But I've had the same feeling when I play against like maybe like a mono white stacks deck, where I'm like, oh my gosh, this game is like a million years old already. And the hope is to maybe end games a little bit faster because we have bigger creatures. But yeah, so okay, so we talked a little bit about Gatekeeping. We talked about these decks and how they could be seen as bad, but we find out that they actually might be better. What are some other things that we could do to possibly improve as a community?
As a community, we can improve if, when we have discussion with others, if we try to take our ego out of it. I think that would go a long way with any discussion you have with someone. Like, don't put your ego in it. It's hard not to. It's hard not to put your feelings in it. But if you do it and just have like a constructive debate, I think we would go a long way, even further in the community, even understanding each other on a human basic level, if we just take ego out of it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. You're saying, like, I know better than you because I've been playing cedh, but like at the same point, we should be more welcoming to new players joining.
Yeah, just welcoming to new players, welcome to new people. Just just don't try. It's not even an elitist thing. I think it just comes down to like the core of us being like human beings. Like we just a lot of people when you have a discussion or a debate with someone, no matter what the topic it is, it normally ends in it being a very heated debate. Someone feelings getting hurt or something. But if you just take your ego outside of it and you can believe that someone can be incorrect or you can be incorrect, I think
Yeah.
it goes a very long way.
I think
If you,
if as
yeah,
long as both sides are open to change, you
correct.
can kind of meld the two ideas together.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's tricky. It's something that I think we could work on as a community. I think it's tolerance. I would say tolerance is like my number one, because it's easy to get wrapped up in your feelings. It's so easy. And like, I know that I am a person who am more tolerant of other people's ideas, whether they're good or bad. Because ultimately, like, I want to see the best deck, right? I want to see like what is the best deck. And I've seen people come up and I get like a lot of messages on, do you think this deck is good or do you want to help me on this list? And sure, the answer is yes. Let me help you on this list. And sometimes we find out that this list isn't that great. And I'm a repeat offender of creating bad lists. But like at the end of the day, I want to see what is the best list and how can I help you, and be tolerant of like ideas that I may not think are good, but more than that, be accepting of ideas that might be just so outside of the box, and just take a look at like what does this mean? Like what is this card doing? A good example of that card is like Pestilence. I think Pestilence is a really good card, because there's so many creature based decks that are out that are trying to just draw cards, and Pestilence just says you don't get those things. But you don't see decks that can really support that. A deck that can support that is Crick.
Yeah.
Right. And that makes sense, right? I can get behind that idea, but it just took someone to like point that out to me for me to be like, oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, I think a lot of new ideas, like, I really want to see them in action. Like, if you're saying, like, oh, this new 3-card combo is amazing, like, okay, well, let's play a game and you show it to me and I'll I'll let you know if it's good or not.
I'll judge you. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, judge you. Your cards are awful.
Your cards are awful. Gosh. But like it's true, like and also like your 3-card ultimate win combo could be the best part of a new deck, right? Like I don't know, I've been so wrapped in playing like Kinnan, that like, oh, I want to try making something else because I don't want to get tired of one deck, and creating like new spicy decks I think is really, really important. I don't know. Kahlua or Ashani, is there any new decks that you guys are working on?
My deck that I'm working on is big flips. That's what I've been working on. I'm not really. I'm not a big brewer. I'm more of someone who will refine a deck that I like. But like coming up with an idea from scratch, not my cup of tea. But like if someone has a list and they're like, "Hey, do you want to fine tune this for me?" Yeah, I'm your guy for that. But what about you, Kahlua? I know you play a lot of different decks.
Yeah. I put together Thrasios Dargo because I listened to this podcast called The Late Nights, and they were like, you got to try this Cursed Mirror Astral Dragon thing. And
oh, yeah.
it was, it's not that great. It's fun, but getting the thing to happen is kind of tough.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I can see that.
I put together a Rafine deck, and that was also kind of iffy. It was like a Doomsday Razaketh type of thing.
Tell me more about that Rafine deck, because every time I see it, it just looks underwhelming. Like a lot of people are like, "Hey, it's a it's a better Timna card, but is it really though? Like
Um,
I don't think it has legs, but
I think it's not better Timna. Um, the thing with Timna is you get access to even more colors than just Esper. So, um, I I like it, but it still feels a little too slow. Like if you're like so you're playing a creature like turn 1, turn 2, and then trying to cast your commander so you can get the connive triggers going. So you can fill your graveyard and then reanimate things. Um, it's okay. I would definitely like do like a Turbo Hermit Timna Thrasios over Rafine, but yeah, I was just looking for something that was different than what I'm normally playing to test it out. Yeah, I don't know.
anything new for you, Higher? Any new brews? You're always brewing.
Dude, I'm always brewing. It's like it's a problem. The newest thing I've brewed is a card. Oh, I made a deck called Just Draw Cards, and that one's pretty cool. That is a Bruce Tarl Thrasios deck, and the idea was to run as many draw engines as possible. So we're on cards like we're on Tandem Lookout, we're on Toski, we're on this really interesting line that shout out to Takato, where you neoform Bruce into Goblin Dark Dwellers, and Goblin Dark Dwellers gets neoform back from the graveyard and allows you to cast it, so you can neoform Goblin Dark Dwellers into Niv.
Say what now?
You can, well, I said Niv Mizzet, and Ashani said what?
What?
So Bruce Tarl is a 4-drop, and you can neoform Bruce Tarl into a card called Goblin Dark Dwellers. That is a 5-drop red goblin with menace. When Goblin Dark Dwellers enters the battlefield, you may cast target instant or sorcery card with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. If that card would be put into your graveyard this turn, exile it instead. So then you just grab Neoform after you've Neoformed Bruce, and you Neoformed the Goblin Dark Dwellers, and it allows you to get Niv Mizzet.
Oh, that's my kind of deck right there.
Yeah, so it's just like all draw engines. Like I really liked the idea. We run Curiosity, we run Compost, we run Keen Sense, Ristic, Mystic, Smuggler Share. We're on everything. Like we're on Runic Armasaur. Like literally every draw engine I could find. I just
on Grassalex.
No Grassalex.
You missed out on the blue Timna. Come on, man.
Maybe. I know, right? I did. There's a lot. There's Ledger Shredder. There's a lot of things. There's a lot. So that was a deck I brewed up. I added a lot of stuff to that, and then there was another deck called Ebony Elves, which is Miara Thorn of the Glade, which is a black.
Oh, I saw this deck.
Yeah, Miara. Yeah, Thorn of the Glade. It's an elf. Whenever Miara or another elf you control die, you may pay 1 life and pay 1 and draw a card. And then Nadir, Agent of Dusknil. Whenever a token you control leaves the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on Nadir, Agent of the Dusknil. And then when Nadir leaves the battlefield, create a number of 1/1 green elf warrior creature tokens equal to its power, and it's a 3/3. There's a card called Animation Module. Animation Module says whenever 1 or more +1/+1 counters are placed on a permanent you control, you may pay 1. If you do, create a 1/1 colorless servo artifact creature token. And so what you can do is with your command, with Nadir, Animation Module, and like Ashnod's Altar, you can create infinite servo tokens. And then you can sacrifice Nadir with Ashnod's Altar, and if you have Miara on the battlefield, you'll create a bunch of dudes, a bunch of 1/1 green elf warriors, and then you can start sacking them, paying 1 and lose a life to draw 20 or 30 cards. So you just need Ashnod's Altar and Animation Module to go infinite.
That is spicy.
Yeah. Is it good? I don't know, but it was something that like I made. You know, it's just cool. It's cool stuff like that. And this is a mono black deck, which is pretty cool.
I saw you play it the other day. It was. I think we both lost to some turbo deck, but
Yeah. Oh, for sure, absolutely. It's just one of those things. Like, it could win. Technically, it could win, but like, will it win? I don't know about all that. So it's interesting. Are there any commanders that you're interested in building?
Gale looks like there's potential.
I tried it. It was,
I think every once in a while they tried it, but it was like it takes too much to get online. And I think there's potential to like figure something out there. Rocco, I think, is solved, but I still think maybe there could be some cute things for Rocco. I want to build Gruul Minsk, because I'm a Protein Hulk fan, and Gruul Protein Hulk sounds absolutely fun to me. So that's like the most list of sicko like I want to build in a long time, and those are it. Gale, Minsk Hulk, and Rocco. But I think Rocco is solved, so I don't think there's
how's
anything...
your to kind of circle back around? I saw you playing it's like Timnatana Hulk. How's that been going for you?
So Timnatana Hulk is Richie's. Shout out to Big Richie's. It's his child that when he wanted to play Hulk, he didn't like Sans Red Hulk, which was Timnathrasios. He didn't like it because he said red is the best thing to be doing. If you're not playing red, you're just doing it wrong. Which sadly, he might be right. I think red has overall become almost the best color in CDH. Just because of Darkseid and Underworld Breach. So he had this Hulk list, which it was really good on paper. I lost to it a lot. I just didn't believe it could play against Turbo Pods. I think he just folded to Turbo Pods because he refused to play like stack pieces in it. So I took the list and I kind of just put a bunch of hitters, like how I had my Timnathrasios list. Just trying to slow down the game and then do Hulk things. And I'm having a bunch of fun with it because it's the closest thing I can do to Flash Hulk. And that's the thing. It's through the breach. Through the breach is the red card. Now you put a creature into play and sacrifice it at the end step. And you just do through the breach Summoner's Pact. And you do Flash Hulk things in red. And that is what I've been doing. And it's been a blast. I've lost some games, but most of the games are like, at the end of it, people are like, hey, maybe we need a timer on this, because it just stalls games out until you can get a win together. Just like Big Flips. Back to Big Flips.
Yeah. Back to Big Flips.
Maybe I'm just on some dirtly decks recently. Has there been any cool game action you guys taken recently that stood out to you in the game?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Right now, the best thing that I've had happen was I played in a pod recently where I was playing Kinnan, and I had a Seedborn Muse out, I had a Void Winnower out, and I had a Phantasmal Image in hand, and an opponent played Terror of the Peaks and passed, and when it got to my turn, if you don't know what Terror of the Peaks is, it's a red dragon that says whenever another creature you control enters the battlefield, it deals its power to damage to any target. And because I had Phantasmal Image, I was like, oh gosh, I can make a copy of this. So on my turn, I cast the Phantasmal image, and it was a Terror of the Peaks, and I activated Kinnan, and I got a Deadeye Navigator, and I was like, oh god, I can win. And what ended up happening is I soul bonded it to Void Winnower, and then I would just flicker Void Winnower to deal damage to each opponent, or to an opponent, and I was able to add enough mana where I could flicker it 3 times, and that's 33 damage that I did to eat like an opponent. By that time, they were already like below 30, so I was able to kill an opponent every time they untapped.
What?
Yeah, it was pretty nuts.
Golly. Kahlua?
We were playing the other night. It was like Hire, Scoots, and Fonzie, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then somebody wheeled, and then like Fonzie just had like every single answer to everything, and he won the game with Krenko, Mob Boss.
Oh yeah. Oh my god. Listen, okay, we need to talk about this. Okay. So there was a wheel happened, right? I time twisted, right? And like Fonzie was playing Krenko Mob Boss. Now, like it wasn't like he was like crazy ahead, but he definitely had like a board state, and he had a Dockside on the battlefield. He had Imperial Recruiter. He had the Staff of Domination, a bunch of mana, and when it went to his turn, he played Mana Reflection.
Mana Echoes.
Mana Echoes, that's it, Mana Echoes. He cast Krenko, and then he cast Mass Hysteria. The Mass Hysteria, we try to counter it. He has Deflecting Swat in hand, and we're just like, what's happening right now? The Mass Hysteria resolves, and he's able to just go infinite with Krenko. Like, it was so dumb. Like, it was like he was gifted, and he had more interaction in hand. If the Mass Hysteria got countered, he had Cursed Mirror in hand, so he could just cast the Cursed Mirror and make it a copy of Krenko, and it has haste. Like, it's so dumb.
Yeah,
So,
that's crazy.
For everyone out there, listeners, I believe Mass Hysteria is a red enchantment.
Yeah, Mass Hysteria's red enchantments gives all creatures haste.
Give all creatures haste. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Very
very
Narset
good.
staple right there.
Narset staple, baby. Yeah. So good. Oh my god. Yeah, that was like really, really fun.
So you guys lost to Krenko, my boss.
Don't judge us.
I mean, I can't judge. I died to Inspect, so who am I to judge?
We lost, but is Krenko really CEDH?
Hey.
Is it? What, is that really the best red commander?
No, it's not.
Gatekeeping?
I can say that with 100% confirmation. It is not the best mono red commander. But it won a game, and that is what is important? Is that it won a game? Who knows? Maybe that makes it viable.
Exactly. So, I guess when it boils down to it, when you're playing these commanders, right, regardless of if you think they're good or if someone else thinks it's bad, like, play it. And if you get a win, then, you're doing something to provide evidence that these pile of cards are a good pile of cards. And we hope that you can take this and maybe make your community better. I don't know. That's the hope. Right, being open to other people's ideas, but also, right, like understanding when the idea that you have has reached what might be its peak, right? What might be, right? So this could be the Lord Windgrace idea. I wanted this deck to be the best CDH deck ever, but like the idea that I had wasn't that great. It was just like, oh, I want to do this cool landfall stuff. And like later down the line, I was like, oh, maybe I could just play better cards in the deck, and maybe make it CDH. I don't know. It's challenging, but I'm gonna say a huge thanks to our guest Kahlua today. Thank you so much for joining us. Kahlua, where can people find you? Tell us more about you, bud.
Thank you for asking. So you can find me on YouTube YouTube / Kahlua Luau. There's an extra U at the end because Kahlua Luau was already taken. So Kahlua Luau. You can find me on Twitter at I don't remember my Twitter handle. Lua Kahlua, I think is my name on Twitter. But yeah, check me out on YouTube. I've got a couple videos, and it's only going to be getting better coming in the future. So check me out.
They are
What's
great
the name
videos.
what's the name of the show that you have on YouTube?
Oh, it is the It's Too Late show. So it's like you've already passed priority, and it's too late, and it's a show, so it's Too Late show. You can see in the background over there. Over there is the logo. This wonderful this mustache.
And they're gonna have to imagine it because it will not be visible to them.
Oh
But
no! Why am I doing video through this whole thing? If it's not?
Listen, I didn't want to say it, but we're here already, Kahlua.
Oh
We're
no!
already here.
It's all good. A huge thanks to all of our sponsors, TC Rockets. Wherever you are watching us, please leave a comment, like it, subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. Make sure if you're listening to this on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your favorite podcast aggregator, it will just help us out greatly. Please do this. You can also find us on Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and more. All links are in the episode notes.
And well, that's about wrap up this episode of the podcast. Tune in next time when we talk more about our favorite format in our favorite game, Magic the Gathering. Thank you so much for listening, and see you next time.